Trump wants to declare a national housing emergency to address the housing affordability crisis. Will 30-year-olds be able to move out of mom's basement? Last week, Treasury Secretary Bessent announced the administration is considering declaring a national housing emergency in the face of high home prices, sluggish construction, and a frozen residential market, saying, quote, everything is on the table. Now, it is a crisis. In 1971, 50% of 30-year-olds were married with a house. Today, it is 14%. So what would everything look like? The lowest hanging fruit is deportations, which are already opening as starter homes. Up to 2 million foreigners have already left in Trump's 6 months, which is probably 500,000 extra homes. Meanwhile, Trump's already floated, opening up federal lands for lease. You could probably build 100,000 homes each on a Camp Pendleton in San Diego, Fort Hood in Austin, or Quantico in D.C., with FEMA doing site prep, roads, leveling. Next is tariff exemptions on construction materials, which the administration has also floated, so steel, copper, aluminum, maybe even Canadian lumber if Elbows Up Carney quits playing games. These could be paired with tax breaks for developers, including accelerated depreciation. You can write it off all at once, or portability of mortgages, so you can switch homes and keep your rate. Another move is zoning and building codes, which are mostly local, but feds could at least get rid of the green crap. Still, all of these are overwhelmed by the 800-pound gorilla, interest rates. Since 1975, interest rates account for 52% of the change in house prices. Unfortunately, rates go in the opposite direction Trump wants. Lower rates raise house prices. This because long-term assets, like houses or stocks, automatically go up when rates are low, as cheap loans bid stuff up. In fact, according to Fed research, since 1975, every 1-point cut in interest rates raises home prices by 7.5%. Donald Trump has said he wants twice that. So outside of entry-level housing freed up by deportations, the rest could be swamped by rates. This all leaves the last man standing lending standards, as in banks get loose with the money, perhaps returning to the early 2000s era of mortgages to people with no income, sometimes no documentation at all, so-called no-doc loans that had strippers owning a dozen houses. Now, this did, of course, put a lot of people in homes, not just strippers, and it led to a lot of new housing, much of it later bulldozed in the 2008 crisis, along with trillions in bailouts and perhaps $10 trillion of wealth destroyed. So on the ground, this could be loosened guarantees at government-backed Freddie and Fannie, perhaps paired with the Fed buying up more mortgage bonds. In other words, pre-bailouts that risk repeating 2008 to the letter. So as next brought to you by I Trust Capital, the Fed took cheap housing with cheap COVID rates, and it is not coming back. There's a lot of tweaks on the table, but it's very hard to actually lower home prices when you are cutting rates, meaning incomes will have to grow into house prices, which could take years. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.